Yo, what's up, guys? We're back and we're doing another breakdown and predictions video this week. This week it's for UFC 277. Pretty good card. We got two title fights on the card, one interim title fight in the UFC flyweight division, and then one title fight for the undisputed title in the women's 135-pound division. And we're coming right back to the scene of the crime, man. I remember last year, this was towards the end of the year, Amanda Nunes, Julianna Peña faced off, and I don't know if I was the only one on YouTube, but I think I might have been the only one on YouTube that predicted Julianna Peña to get the victory, and I think that might be my best prediction so far on the channel. I've had a lot of good predictions, but that one I was fairly confident in. I had called it, weeks before I even put it out on YouTube that I had Julianna Peña winning that fight, and she went in there and kind of did exactly what I thought she was going to do, and it kind of, played out, perfectly in my favor in terms of the prediction and the money that I had on the fight. So hopefully we're going to recreate another good moment in the main event, and the rest of the card we're going to make some money. And we've been on a tear, man. I mean, we made money yesterday on the Contender Series once again, and as you guys know, I've definitely been killing it every year that the Contender Series has been going on. We've had about 90 units profit this year. We're almost at 20% ORI. So for the whole year, we've been on fire in terms of bets, and definitely recommend you get on the Patreon, go over there, try to get on the team and start making some of this money if you're not over there yet, because you get access to the Dana White Contender Series, Bellator, and all these other organizations that put out really good cards. You'll get content on who I think is going to win and who I'm going to bet on as well, and along with UFC bets. So you get all access to all of that. And that's if you go over to patreon.com/MMA Prediction Guru. But right before we get this video started, I want to give a big shout out to the sponsor of the video, which is cashflowmma.com. And this week is the last week for you to go over there and get the their free trial with the promo code MMA Guru. So make sure to definitely go over there and check that out. They do an awesome job capping all the fights, and they've been on a tear recently. I know last week they had a good bet last week where they bet on Garcia to win, parlayed with Aspinall and Blaze not to go the distance, and both those happened really easily. I mean, obviously the Aspinall versus Blades one, I mean, maybe the MMA gods kind of shined down on him a little bit, but I wouldn't have expected that fight to go to decision either way, the way that it was going, and there was absolutely zero sweat in that pick. And then Garcia, if you watch the Bellator, he went in there and just controlled his opponent for 3 rounds, made it a very easy fight. So two really good fights, or two really good legs to have on a parlay. Zero sweat win. And Cash MMA, they're one of the best cappers in MMA this year. So definitely recommend you go over there, check them out this week. You can use the free promo code, get access to their bets for the UFC 277 pay-per-view card. And if you like them, you can stick around and, continue to get winners from them as well. So cashflowmma.com, they're one of the best cappers around. And now we're going to be moving into this first fight of the night. It's Orion Klose taking on Blood Diamond. And this is a fight where the UFC, I think, is just trying to get an idea of what they have in Orion Klose, because with Blood Diamond, I think we already kind of know what's up with him. He's tall, he's long, he's 76-inch reach. I guess not necessarily that tall for welterweight, 5'11", but he has long arms, 76-inch reach. He's going to have that 5-inch reach advantage. City kickboxing guy. He's tied with Israel Adesanya, and he has that kickboxing background. Very wild, throws a lot of flashy techniques. And if he wins, it's going to be a crazy knockout, spinning attack, big kick from Diamond, big explosive left hook that he likes to throw. But I don't really feel like his style translates to MMA that great, because he's not a super technical striker. A lot of his strikes require explosiveness, require the, ability to close distance, and require distance to get off the technique. So, for one, a lot of guys aren't going to give him that space, set off that flashy stuff. And if they do and it doesn't really connect, or he doesn't knock him out, he closes the space where they can get a hold of him and take him down. And he started MMA, I believe, a little bit too late. He's already 34 years old. I don't really necessarily think there's going to be a lot of improvements in what we see from him. I think he just always is going to be one of those flashy strikers that has a chance to go out there and get the knockout. But with Orion Klose, we have a younger fighter coming out of Team Alpha Male that had a good showing on the Contender Series, but then had a tough matchup. I mean, he had to fight Phil Rowe, who's a good jiu-jitsu guy, super tall, super long, good boxing, and he was doing well for a little while. But Phil Rowe, once he started to get his timing, really started beating up Orion Klose on the feet. Klose was tired. He got some takedowns early, but couldn't necessarily do enough damage and couldn't hold him down. And once the takedown stopped kind of working for him, his whole game plan went downhill. He showed a good chin, and he stayed in there for a while, but he eventually got TKO'd. And that was his first loss, but they're putting him in here, like I said, with this 34-year-old kickboxer. And Kosi, you know, his game plan is going to be pretty simple. He's going to be trying to close the distance, get the fight to the ground. He has good wrestling, and he's aggressive on top. He's not necessarily the best with his top game yet. He's kind of just like a green wrestler, and he tries to throw heavy ground and pound when he gets in top position, not great jiu-jitsu or control. And, you know, with Blood Diamond, I don't necessarily think he needs any of that. I think as long as he just stays, you know, at least semi-cognizant of the explosiveness of Diamond, gets in a dominant position, postures up, he should probably be able to keep position and go to work. I feel like he'll be significantly better on the ground. And, you know, even if he can't get him out of there in the first round, I just don't see Blood Diamond stuff in the takedowns, and I don't think it's going to be that hard for Kosi to get the takedown. So unless Blood Diamond can catch a real flashy knockout, I feel like this fight does favor Orion Kosi. It's a little bit tough to go in there and put a bet on Kosi at, you know, favorite odds when he's coming off a loss, lost by TKO at that, and he's facing a, you know, explosive guy that could knock him out. You don't necessarily know how good he is, but I feel like Blood Diamond just is too one-dimensional. He's a little bit older, came to the sport too late, and I think Kosi is going to be able to exploit that, get him to the ground, and either finish him in the first round with ground and pound or in the second round. So give me Orion Kosi to go in here and get the job done with his wrestling and his ground and pound. And up next here, we got a light heavyweight fight between Nick Negumereanu taking on Igor Patria. And this is a fight with the newcomer here. Igor Patria is having his first fight in the UFC. Nick Negumereanu has actually had quite a few fights in the UFC now. This is going to be his 6th UFC fight. He's on a 3-fight winning streak as well. But for Igor Patria, you look at his record and it's a little bit suspect. I mean, definitely padded record. He's fought quite a few guys with losing records, guys with 0 wins. And his last couple wins have been decent. He did have a win on the Contender Series, but definitely has not really been tested that highly, and it's going to be interesting to see how he mixes it with this level of fighter and just in the UFC in general. But he's a striker, and he has good movement, he has good speed, he's aggressive. He isn't really technical, but he'll leap in with power hooks. He likes to go lead hook to the body, to straight or overhand right to the head. He'll throw some solid kicks. He'll even throw some flying attacks. And on the inside, he will throw some dangerous elbows, but defensively, he's very hittable. His defense is more kind of his offense. He's a guy that just tries to go for it, and he's a brawler, hittable guy. His last fight, he got an upset knockout win, and his power is a game changer. He's explosive, and you'll go for it. He has 9 knockout victories in his career. His grappling does not look very good. It looks like his wrestling is subpar. His last fight, his takedown defense looked improved, but he still spent the majority of the first round with his back against the fence. And in other fights, I've seen him taken down, held down. He doesn't really have a good get-up game. Sometimes he will cross distance with his strikes and fall into the clinch, and he doesn't really have the best distance control. So I feel like he definitely is going to struggle against wrestlers in the UFC. Cardio looks decent, but he does tend to slow down a little bit. Level of competition has been really bad, like I said. But he did step up and get that first round finish against an 8-0 fighter in his last fight. So we have to give him some credit for that. But Nick Negumereanu, he's a more prototypical fighter. You know what you're going to get from him. He's rough and rugged. He's not really the greatest athlete. He can be flat-footed, but he has long arms. And he's pretty good at finding that straight right hand. He has a good left hook. He's going to pressure you. And he's going to throw big punches. He's heavy-handed. He has good cardio, and he's durable. And when he can back fighters up to the fence, he'll throw some punch combinations. He, is pretty obvious what he wants to do. He wants to break you with this pressure, throw big punches, mix in some grappling, and I feel like he has the advantage in that aspect in this fight. He should definitely look to mix it up. His wrestling isn't elite, but he's physical, he's big, he can maul fighters against the fence. I feel like he's going to have a lot of success controlling Patria against the cage. If Negumereanu can get the fight to the ground early, I think he can probably control, do damage with ground and pound. And I think if he mixes it up and even can't get the finish, his striking will become more effective because of the threat of the takedown. And I think he has the cardio advantage. He definitely has the advantage of fighting deeper in fights against better opponents. And I have to go with Nick Negumereanu here. I see him being the more well-rounded fighter. I think he has the durability and fight IQ to slow the fight down, clinch a lot, and eventually get it to the ground. Even on the feet, I think Negumereanu can land big shots, get the better of some exchanges. He just has to avoid getting put to sleep early with some explosive shit from Patria, and I think Nick is going to grind on him. early and then get that finish late, though. I don't think that he's going to allow himself to get finished. He's never been finished by strikes. He's smart. He's the guy with UFC experience. He's currently on a 3-fight winning streak in the UFC. And I think he's going to hand Patria his first loss in a while and his first UFC loss. So give me Nick Negreanu via second round KO TKO. And continuing along here, we got another female fight. This fight is going to be in the 135-pound division, and it's going to be between Jiyong Kim and Joselyne Edwards. We have Jiyong Kim moving up to 135. Joselyne Edwards, she's a 135er. She just went up to 145 in her last fight to take an opportunity against Ramona Pasquale, and she was able to get the win in that one. And Jiyong Kim, in my opinion, I mean, I thought her last fight was a robbery, man. I went back and watched it, and I don't get how you could score that fight for Priscilla Cachoeira, but she's coming off 3 losses in a row, unfortunately. But she has been in there with some really good girls. She fought Alexa Grasso, she fought Molly McCann, and then recently she fought Priscilla Cachoeira. And I do think this is a step down in competition in terms of taking on Joselyne Edwards. But Jiyong Kim, you know, she definitely needs a win. Almost 33 years old. She has 3 losses in a row, lost 4 or 5. If she doesn't win this one, I doubt the UFC will keep her around. So it's definitely a necessity for her to get the victory here. Joselyne Edwards, she's a little younger. She's coming off a win. Don't necessarily think that you know, urgency to get the win or you're going to lose your job is there. But Edwards obviously is going to be wanting to gain some momentum as well. She just fought recently, so she's taking another fight quickly. And if she can get 2 victories in a row, come down to 135, maybe she could start to kind of, like I said, build some momentum and get close to those rankings. But I feel like it's going to be a fun fight. It's going to be a striking fight. I think Jiyong Kim is going to get a different look than usual. You look at Molly McCann, you look at Priscilla, not than usual, but then her last 2 fights. You look at McCann, you look at Priscilla Cachoeira. They're both pressure fighters. They, were able to get in Jiyong Kim's face, back her up, force exchanges, and they were willing to take the fire from Jiyong Kim and come back. And eventually they were the ones that landed the higher volume in the fights in the more impactful strikes. But Joselyne Edwards, she's a different type of striker. She likes to kind of move on the back foot. She likes to, get back to, up along the cage most of the time, and then she'll explode in with these punch combinations, and she's very fast. She can close the distance quickly. She has, a pretty long reach for the weight, even though Jiyong Kim is a little bit longer than her. Kim has really long arms. But Joselyne Edwards is good at, blitzing forward, landing those really heavy 3-2s and or 1-2s, and she can close the distance really well, like I said. And in her last fight, she was landing a lot of nice kicks, front kicks to the body, those oblique kicks to the legs, leg kicks, and she was staying real active, controlling the distance fairly well. But with this fight, I think that Jiyong Kim is a little bit underrated in this one. I feel like she should be the favorite. Even though she's coming off losses, she's fought way better girls. Neither girl is going to be looking to take the other girl down in this one, so it's going to be a stand-up fight. And Jiyong Kim is a good pressure fighter. She's good at pressure and staying at her range, throwing combinations, boxing. I feel like she's one of, the better boxers, probably one of the top 15 boxers in the weight class. And, I think that she's going to be able to pressure, keep the distance, avoid those blitz attacks and counter the blitz attacks with their own counter punches. And I think that she's just going to be able to pressure and get the better of most of the exchanges against Edwards. I think Edwards does a lot of waiting at times as well. I think that her kicks aren't going to be as effective because I think Kim's going to be countering the kicks. And I just don't know if Joselyne Edwards is going to be able to have enough blitz attacks or enough offense to get the win. I think Kim's going to have the steady offense where she's going to be pressuring, throwing combos for the majority of the fight, staying active with their hands throughout the duration of the rounds. And I think Joselyne Edwards is going to be doing a lot of waiting, a lot of, absorbing strikes, and then occasionally throwing maybe some flashy kicks or closing distance with a nice blitz or 2. But I don't think it's going to be necessarily enough in the judges' eyes. So I think Jiyong Kim's going to be able to go in there and get the decision in this one. And I wouldn't even be shocked if she wins fairly dominantly, but it is, it's something to look at, especially when a fighter's lost 3 in a row, where their mindset is at and if they're going to show up 100%. So I don't think Kim's necessarily like a slam dunk to win or anything, but I do think that she should get the victory skills-wise. And I feel like Edwards is a little bit overrated, honestly. I think Edwards has decent striking, but I think that she's not really a pressure fighter. She doesn't have as good at boxing. She's not as good in the exchanges, and she relies a lot on her athleticism. And I think with this fight, it's going to be exposed a little bit. I think Kim's going to be able to get the better of the boxing and win this fight via decision. And we got another newcomer to the UFC in this next one with Adam Fugitt taking on Michael Morales. And, with Michael Morales, we just recently saw him fight. And he's a young kid, 23 years old. He's fighting out of Mexico. I think he's fighting out of Antrim Gym, which is one of the best gyms in South America. He's undefeated, 13-0, and he has a lot of physical gifts. I mean, the guy's 6 foot, 79-inch reach, very mobile, very athletic, and just very gifted guy. And he's going to be taking on a veteran, a journeyman in Adam Fugitt, who's coming in here on short notice. He's 33 years old, so he's a little bit up there, but he's had some experience in MMA. Only 8-2, so he doesn't even have as many fights as Michael Morales, but he, has been grinding away for a while in the sport. And Adam, he's very aggressive and he's more of a grappler, but he just leaves too many openings for me. This isn't going to be a long breakdown for me. I think that, Adam Fugitt, he's not horrible. He's actually I feel like can compete with some low-end UFC welterweights, but he's, a pressure wrestler with, aggressive striking, but he leaves a lot of openings to be countered, and that's kind of Morales' game. He's long, he's rangy, good counter too, and he tries to find those openings for the counter hooks as well. And I think Adam leaves a lot of openings, and his grappling is sloppy. Even though he has decent wrestling, he doesn't have the best top control. He doesn't really have great submission defense, and I feel like Morales, even if he does get kind of tied up, or even if he gets taken down early in the fight, I don't think it's necessarily going to be that monumental. I think that he'll be able to either work back up to his feet eventually or kind of just, get out of the position that he's in. And then I think he'll eventually be able to land that kill shot. I don't think Adam's going to come in with the greatest cardio either. He's coming in on short notice. So I think Morales is the rightful big favorite. At minus almost 600, I mean, I don't know how you can get a ton of value out of that, especially with, not really knowing exactly how good Morales is yet, but he is coming off that win over Trevin Giles, in his UFC debut, had to win all the Contender Series, and I feel like he's much more proven at this point, the better athlete, the bigger guy, the younger guy, the one with the full camp. He has so many advantages over Adam that definitely think Morales should get the win here. So give me Michael Morales to get the job done via first round TKO or KO. And in this next one, we got Klose taking on Rafa Garcia. And I'm excited, man, that Klose is getting back in there and he's starting to get back in the groove of things. Because, man, I mean, if that fight against Brandon Jenkins didn't excite you, you're not a UFC fan. I mean, the guy went in there and just brutalized that guy, took him out quick. And, really fun performance. So I can't remember. I think it was actually a second round finish. But either way, I mean, you took him out pretty brutally. And Klose, I feel like, kind of got forgotten after that loss to Beneil Dariush because he didn't fight for a while. Had that incident with Jeremy Stevens where it kind of put him in some bad light a little bit, I guess. Even though it was kind of more Jeremy Stevens' fault, it's kind of like he had to pull out of the fight and, there was a lot of things that happened on his end. And then there was a while where I believe he was having a lot of issues outside of the fight game, or not outside of the fight game, but outside of the actual fight night and the UFC type of thing, because he was having they say Fight Ready MMA right there, that's the camp that he's at. But I remember you go back a few years ago, before he fought Beneil, right? He was talking a lot of shit about the MMA lab, saying that he learned more in this one fight camp with Fight Ready than he did in the whole entire 5-6 years that he was training at MMA lab, and MMA lab held him back, and now he's going to go on a big run and blah, 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 right? So then he lost that fight to Beneil, and he comes back, he fought Brandon Jenkins, and then he was saying the exact opposite, in the build-up to that one, where he's saying, fuck Fight Ready, they got in my head, and now I'm back with the MMA lab, and I'm doing my thing over there. So hopefully, he made the right decision, and, he's back with the guys that he started with, and, he's doing his thing, and it showed up in the performance, and hopefully he can continue it with Garcia. But it's going to be an interesting one. I mean, Rafa Garcia, he's a guy that's kind of established himself as a upper tier, kind of mid-level lightweight. I don't think he's in the top 15 discussion, but maybe top 35, top 25. And if he can beat Klose, then he's going to be working his way pretty close. But, I think Drakkar Klose is right now a little bit further ahead than him. But, Garcia, he's a grinder, comes forward and he throws some pretty good boxing combinations. He'll go body head. He's willing to dig in and go to war. And then he can wrestle, and he's very, very strong. So he can mix it up. And he's won 2 fights in a row. He's been doing good in the UFC, but this is a big step up in competition for him, and we're going to see how he fares with that. I feel like Drakkar Klose is a little underrated. I mean, he, in my opinion, even though he is a wrestler in college, he's more of a striker in MMA. He can control guys against the cage, and that's what we saw from him earlier in his UFC career. He was controlling guys against the fence and doing a lot of winning by just kind of slowing the fight down and kind of neutralizing his opponent. But more recently, he's come with this pressure style where he's just really working his hands, and his hands are super accurate. He's really landing that straight right hand, the overhand right, super clean. And he has real nice calf kicks, fast hands, super aggressive guy. And I feel like Garcia, I just don't know if he has the firepower to compete with a guy like Drakkar Klose speed-wise or power-wise in a fight. I feel like Drakkar Klose is going to get the better of that. And then in terms of the grappling, I think Klose, his wrestling has failed him in certain fights, but I don't think this is one of those fights where it's going to be that big of a deal. I think Garcia, even though he could wrestle a little bit, I don't think he's going to be able to take down and control a guy like Drakkar Klose or hold him down. And we saw against Chris Grutzmonker that Garcia got real tired when he got pressured by somebody and couldn't get the takedown. And I think against Drakkar Klose, we could see that same thing happening. And Garcia, I mean, the guy's super tough. He's super hard to get out of there. We saw against Nasrat hack press as well. He took a lot of shots and stayed in there. But I think that fight is more, of something that we can point to see what he would look like against Drakkar Klose with Nasrat. Because Nasrat is a guy that likes to strike, counter with that, rear hand, similar to Drakkar Klose. He's aggressive pressure striker and mostly a boxer. And he also has good takedown defense. So I feel like with Drakkar Klose, he can kind of implement that similar game plan. And I think Drakkar Klose can get the victory here. With Garcia being so tough, I think it's going to be hard to get the knockout. So I think Klose has to be cognizant of that and not go 100% for the finish and get tired like he did against Beneil Dariush or like he even did against Brandon Jenkins, even though he was able to get the finish in that one. Because if he does get super tired, that third round could be real dicey for him. But I still don't think Garcia is a big finisher. So even if Drakkar Klose maybe gets tired in that, after that second round, I think he could still maybe get it until the end and get the win. So I just feel like Drakkar Klose is the better fighter. I think he's a better wrestler and he has the better striking. Grappling-wise and strength-wise, maybe Garcia could give him some issues. And I feel like Garcia can't compete in the striking. But I think Drakkar Klose is just ultimately going to be a little bit more well-rounded, the better fighter, land the more impactful strikes, and maybe have the better cardio down the stretch. So I'm going to go with Drakkar Klose to make it 2 in a row, make it, I believe, 7 out of 8 or 6 out of 7 in the UFC. And we'll see if he can get in there with the top 15 guy after the win over Garcia. And this next one, this should be a funny fight. We got Dontel Mays taking on Hamdy Abdelwahab, I believe. Abdelwahab. Hopefully I'm saying that correct. But yeah, I mean, Dontel Mays, he has kind of started to do better in the UFC. He's won 2 fights in a row. His last fight was definitely the best performance of his career. He dominated, showed off his grappling, and he's an athletic guy, and he's super tall and lengthy. He's 6'6", 81-inch reach. And in this fight, I think he's going to be looking to stick and move with the jab, with the straight punches, good front knees. He usually throws a lot of kicks, but in this fight, I would holster the kicks and box more, similar to how he did against Roque Martinez. He should have a big speed advantage on the feet. He has a lot more weapons, better footwork, and he should be able to dominate the fight at range. Recently, he's gotten his cardio more on point, and he's been able to go 3 rounds without gassing like he used to. In his last fight, he showed off his offensive grappling. He was able to close the distance, get clinch takedowns, and dominate Josh Parisian. Showed off a good ground game, solid cardio, got the finish in the 3rd round. And he showed good takedown defense in other fights. Early in his career, he had some issues with guys trying to take him down and getting tired. But go back, you watch his fight, for instance, with Muhammad Usman. He showed good distance control. He was able to defend a lot of takedowns with the underhooks against the cage, showed good balance. And I feel like in this fight, if he can keep it on the feet against a guy that's almost a pure wrestler in Hamdy, he should be able to get the win, finish, or really get Hamdy tired and get him out of there. In the later rounds, I think he's the more well-rounded martial artist and just has to defend the takedown. Watch out for that left hook from Hamdy, and that's about it. With Hamdy Abdelwahab, I wasn't too impressed with him. You know, he's a former Olympic Greco-Roman wrestler for Egypt, but I don't really think he translates to MMA that well. He's short and compact. He's not the best athlete. He still has very rudimentary striking. He really relies on just spamming that left hook. He'll try to hang back, move around, and then usually he's low volume, but when fighters close the distance, he'll brawl by throwing that left hook, right hand, and then try to kind of spam hooks in the pocket, go for the takedown. Good double legs, and he's obviously strong in the clinch. When he can get on top, he isn't very dangerous. He worries more about just controlling, keeping the position than doing anything else. Doesn't really have great ground and pound, doesn't have a submission game. I've seen him go 3 rounds before and not slow down, but I've only seen him fight at a very slow pace. I haven't really seen him get pushed or tested in a hard fight. He's fought super overmatched opponents. He's padded his record to the fullest. He has 2 wins over a guy named Matthew Strickland, who looks like he should be on my 400-pound life, not fighting in the cage. So I mean, I don't know, man. And there was no need for a rematch. I mean, he fought that guy twice, going from Strickland to Mays is a crazy step up. I do believe being an Olympic athlete, Abdelwahab will put up a good fight, not just roll over. I just don't know if he's going to have the skills to stay in the UFC long term, and I got to go with Donto Mays in this matchup here. I mean, he's much bigger. He has the striking edge by a wide margin. He's much faster. He's better movement, better boxing. He should look to attack the body with knees, but mainly just keep it more boxing-oriented. And I feel like he's proven that he's worked hard in his grappling. Even if he gets taken down or clinched up, I think he can work back to his feet or get off the cage. And if he can get a takedown or 2 of his own, we don't know how Hamdy's going to look off of his back. Usually wrestlers, especially when they're green, they get taken down. They can tend to panic. And I don't know how Hamdy's going to do if he becomes the nail and not the hammer. Is he going to fall off a cliff? Is he going to be tough? I'm not sure. I mean, Donto Mays is a guy that's not necessarily the most heavy hitter. So I'm going to say he wins via 3rd round TKO. I think that Abdelwahab will be able to stick around for a little bit. But I ultimately think Mays is just too good for him, and I think he's going to be able to make this one look fairly easy. And up next here, we got a lightweight fight. We got Drew Dober taking on Rafael Alves, and I love this fight, man. 2 guys that are really, really good fighters. I feel like Rafael Alves is one of the most underrated fighters in that lightweight division. I think that, the guy was a Titan FC champion. He went in there, he won the Contender Series by finish, went in there against Demir Ismagulov, and dropped him early in the 1st round, was able to win the 3rd round against Ismagulov, who's a motherfucker in the UFC, and then goes out there on his next fight and takes out Mark Chikasi in the 1st round. I mean, we've seen what Mark Chikasi's been doing recently, so Rafael Alves is a serious guy. I really do rate him a lot higher than a lot of people. I did bet on him to beat Mark Chikasi, and that played out really good for me, but Drew Dober is another guy that I'm a big fan of. Drew Dober is a beast. I mean, the guy is tenured UFC veteran at this point, and we know what type of style he brings. He's a Muay Thai style guy, comes forward, comes to bang, and that's exactly what Rafael Alves does too. So I'm super excited for this fight. I feel like this could be one of the best fights on the card, and I think Rafael Alves is a very live underdog here. Drew Dober, he's a fantastic pressure striker, but he's flat-footed. He wants to trade in the pocket. I don't think he's the fastest guy. Alves is underrated, man. He's super athletic, fast, great movement, blitz attacks, devastating left hook, power in both hands. He throws heavy hooks in the pocket, nice counter hooks, nice straight right hand blitz attacks, and he's always moving. He's very good at pulling fighters into his big shots. Fighters need to pick at Alves from the outside, throw kicks, stick and move, leg kicks, and eventually try to take him down if they're elite grapplers. But Drew Dober really isn't that guy. I mean, he does have good leg kicks, and I think he's going to try to stay active with the kicks. But, Dober really wants to just get in the pocket and trade. I mean, maybe he could just try to clinch and maul against the cage. But if Dober's just following Alves and looking to cut him off, I think Alves is way faster, going to be able to get in, land his left hook or the straight right hand and get out. And Alves cracks heavy, so I don't know if Dober is just going to want to eat those shots and be able to walk through them to get to the pocket. Dober does have a notoriously amazing chin, but his last 2 fights, he went through absolute wars. He got dropped, rocked heavy against Brad Riddell. He got almost finished, dropped against Terrence McKinney, took huge damage in both of those fights. And I do think Dober is the tougher, more durable fighter. If he can land some clean, heavy shots on Alves or rack up leg kicks, he may be able to hurt Alves and get him out of there. But Alves has the speed, movement, grappling advantage. I don't think Alves will be able to take him down and grind him out. I don't think he's going to even try to get takedowns. I think a lot of people are under the illusion that Alves is like a grappler, but I think he's just an opportunistic submission artist and kind of a Muay Thai striker. And I don't really see Dober looking for takedowns either, even though Magulov was able to take down Alves and grind him out. I don't think it's as easily done as what Ismagulov made it look. I think that Drew Dober's not going to want to mess with that guard. I don't think he's going to want to mess with that guillotine of Alves. So I think he's going to want to keep it on the feet too. And, I feel like cardio could be an issue for Alves. And if he could be in a war, but he's been in 5-round fights. He's won in the third, fourth rounds. He won the third round against Magulov. So he's been able to prove that he can do well in the later rounds. But I do think that Dober is going to do better as the fight goes on, especially if it becomes like a war. But Alves, I don't think is getting the respect he deserves quite yet. He was able to, like I said, drop Magulov at the start of the fight, took out Mark Jacasey in the first round, former Titan FC champion. Even though he has a lot of losses, I think style-wise, you should be able to win this fight. He could stick and move on the outside, use his power to avoid a war, and I feel if Dober really pushes the issue, I wouldn't be surprised if he got knocked out, man, for the second time ever in his career. I mean, he's taken a lot of damage recently, and Alves is a cracker, man. I mean, that guy throws heavy, and I feel like Alves isn't going to give him that pocket fight very much. I think he's going to keep his feet moving, and I feel like he's going to catch Drew Dober at some point in the fight, rock him, and then catch that guillotine and get the finish. I mean, I feel like Alves is being overpriced here at plus 180. I think he has a lot of value. I mean, we just saw Drew Dober against Terrence McKinney. He was the underdog in that fight. It was like an even money fight. I feel like Rafael Alves is much better than Terrence McKinney. I know Terrence McKinney has a big fan base, and man, I mean, he's like a minus 1,000 favorite for next week. So, odds makers like that guy, but I think Alves is better than Terrence McKinney. He's more rounded, and he's proven more. And Dober's like almost a 2.5 to 1 favorite over him, so I don't agree with that at all. And I'm gonna go with Alves here to pull the upset, get another guillotine finish. And this next one, I think this is one of the closest fights in the card here with Alex Moreno taking on Matt Semelsberger. Really good matchmaking here because we got Alex Moreno, who I think is kind of a little bit unsung at this point. He's 10-4 in the UFC, which is a really, really good record. He's won 3 fights in a row, and kind of looking like since he's moved to 4-7 May that he might be able to crack that top 15, which maybe a lot of people wouldn't have thought for him at the start of his UFC career. But he's on a run right now, and he's been doing really well. And his opponent Matt Semelsberger, he hasn't been in the UFC nearly as long, but he's had 5 fights. He's 4-1 in the UFC. And he's been doing awesome. I mean, he's one of 2 guys in UFC history, him and Anthony Rumble Johnson, I believe, that have 2 sub 15-second knockouts. So Matt Semelsberger's been going in there and putting it down, and he's won 2 fights in a row. He's coming off a really interesting back and forth fight with AJ Fletcher, but this is a big step up. Like I said, Alex Moreno, he's 10-4 in the UFC. Look at Matt Semelsberger's record overall, 10-3. So Moreno has actually 10-4-1, and it really is 10-5, honestly, because he did get knocked out by Nico Price, but then that fight got turned to a no contest due to Nico Price failing a drug test for marijuana. So I guess if we're going to be, real about it, he has 10-5, 15 UFC fights. Semelsberger has 13 total fights, and just look at the guys that Semelsberger has been fighting pre-UFC, and then when he got to the UFC. I mean, when he got to the UFC, he fought Carlton Minus, who had 2 UFC fights, then got cut. Fought Jason Witt, who that's probably his best opponent to date that he defeated, and he got that win really quick, like 15-second knockout over Jason Witt. Then he went in there against Chaos Williams, and he proved himself in that fight because it was real close. Chaos came away with a decision win. And then his last 2 fights, I mean, he fought 2 newcomers to the UFC. He fought Martin Sano, who probably had no business in the UFC. And then he fought AJ Fletcher, who looked real tough, but came in on short notice, and Semelsberger got the job done. So Alex Moreno is a way, way harder guy. And Alex Moreno has been fighting established UFC veterans. He's been fighting a lot more experienced guys. He's been fighting better opponents. So we're going to have to see if Semelsberger could step up to the test here. And I feel like this is an interesting fight because both these guys are strikers and they're both counter strikers, but they counter strike in much different ways. Moreno, I think, is the more technical fighter, but Semelsberger is obviously, bigger, more athletic, stronger, more explosive. I feel like he's sharper too. Like he'll throw sharper, straighter punches. He throws, tight, straight shots, good counters. But Moreno, he's, a guy that likes to pull you into shots, and Semelsberger is a counter striker that likes to walk you down, wait for you to overextend, and then, boom, catch you with that one straight right hand, or catch you with that left hook and put you to sleep. And he has that one punch knockout power. And Alex Moreno is more of a guy that likes to move around. He has really, really good footwork, some of the best footwork in the welterweight division, I would say. And then he has really good overhand. So he'll pull you into the jab, pull you into the overhand right. And that's kind of his game plan. I mean, he's going to be trying to pull you into overhands. And Moreno throws a lot more volume. And he also can get a little bit more sloppy and wild at times. Like he could throw wide hooks and get a little bit brawl happy, whereas Semelsberger stays more technical and kind of solid. And it's gonna be an interesting fight because I feel like Moreno has a big advantage in terms of foot speed, and he's gonna be moving around and being able to catch Semelsberger with those counters as long as the fight's going. And I think that Moreno has a little bit better kicks as well, even though he's not a super active kicker. I think that he might be able to use some kicks, long range striking movement, and give Matt Semelsberger a lot of issues that way, catching him with the counters. And we saw Carlton Minus kind of implement a similar game plan and have some success against Semelsberger. But Semelsberger has that equalizer in his hands, man. I mean, the guy is very sharp. He has a nice straight right hand, a really good straight, or a really good left hook, and he can keep that pressure heavy. He has good cardio. And, really, really good counters. He stays cocked and he's ready to counter when you overextend. And the thing about Moreno is he hasn't fought a ton of heavy hitters in the UFC. You look at his career, he's fought more lower tier guys, but a lot of them have not really had big power, whereas Matt Semelsberger does. And when you look at the guys that did have power that Moreno got in there with, two of them, for instance, with Chaos Williams and Nico Price, Moreno couldn't take the shots. He got knocked out. And with Semelsberger, that's kind of my worry with Alex Moreno. I think Moreno's going to be winning the fight. I think if it goes to decision, more than likely Moreno will get the job done. But where I see Semelsberger having the advantages in outside of his athleticism and power is the fact that I think he has better cardio. And I think he'll stay sharper throughout the fight. Even though he's not going to be throwing the same volume, he's not going to be moving the same. And I don't think he's going to be able to keep that volume and enough to win a decision if it gets there. But Moreno does leave himself open for some counters at times when he's closing that distance. Like when he starts to get in that late second, third round, he does tend to get a little bit tired and he'll start to get a little bit more wild, and that's where it become even more hittable. And Semelsberger can snipe him and land those big shots, and I just don't know if Alex Moreno is going to be able to take those punches because I haven't really seen him be able to take those punches against a heavy hitter like Matt Semelsberger. So I'm kind of, I don't know. Even Moreno could maybe even look for some takedowns. We've seen him do that like against Reese McKee, but I don't really see that as a likely thing. I think it's more going to play out on the feet. And I feel like I said, if Semelsberger wins, I think it's going to be a TKO KO. If Moreno wins, I think it's going to be more likely a decision win. And I had a lot of trouble picking this one. But ultimately, I'm just going to go with the younger guy. I think he's a little bit more explosive and a little bit tighter with the shots. I'm going to go with Matt Semelsberger. I think he has the cardio edge too. And I just feel like he's going to be able to land a big shot and take Moreno out of there. I'll say in the second round. I think Moreno's going to be winning the fight all the way up until he gets clipped. But I feel like he's not going to be able to take the power. We've seen him get knocked out a couple times before. And I feel like Semelsberger is going to touch that button. So I'm going to go with Matt Semelsberger, but this is one of those fights that I think can go either way and one of the closer fights on the card, if you ask me. And up next, we have an excellent fight to start off the main card with Magomed Ankalaev taking on Anthony Smith. I believe this is a number one contender fight for the next challenger at light heavyweight for the title. And yeah, man, I'm excited for this fight. I do agree with Anthony Smith, though. I actually kind of fell in the trap myself. I was like, overrated Ankalaev in my head a little bit because I went back and watched a few of his fights, and I still think the guy is a beast, don't get me wrong, but he's definitely not as good as I thought he was. And I feel like the line is a little bit disrespectful. I feel like it should be a lot closer, like maybe like Ankalaev minus 225, minus 250. I mean, to have him at minus 500, I think it's even wider now, like minus 650. That's way off. Anthony Smith definitely has a big chance. And Anthony Smith's a guy that I've been real hard on, in other, you know, videos and things like that. And I've not really gave him a lot of credit as a fighter, but I definitely feel like his last 3 fights, even though he took that step down in competition, his skills are shining through and he's definitely getting a lot better. He, you got to give credit where it's due. And, yeah, I think a lot of fighters should end up doing that, man. I don't know why they don't. Like Anthony Smith, he did a smart thing where certain fighters like Chris Weidman's of the world and other guys in that similar ilk, they don't really have that. I don't know if it's an ego thing or what, but they don't want to take those lower tier fights against guys outside the top 15 or guys that are barely in the top 15. They want to still fight the best in the world, but I think it's definitely a smart thing to build yourself up like that again. Like now Anthony Smith, where maybe at one point, especially after the loss to Glover and Rakic, it looked like his career was dead in the water. Like he was never going to get close to another title shot, but he took a step down in competition, won 3 fights in a row dominantly in the first round. Now he's right back in the number 1 contenders fight with a lot of confidence and momentum. So it's not like he's backing into it, and it's going to be an interesting fight. So I do think that more fighters should kind of take that route when they sort of take a couple losses. But the way I see this fight going down, I mean, Ankalaev is the guy with the more momentum, no matter what you want to say. He hasn't lost since his loss to Paul Craig, which is his first UFC fight. That was the only loss of his career. But that's a fight I kind of want to talk about right off the bat. I mean, if you look at that fight, Paul Craig did get a couple takedowns on Ankalaev. And that's something that I overrated a little bit with Ankalaev is his grappling. I feel like his grappling definitely is a little bit questionable. I think his takedown defense is not the greatest. I mean, I saw Nikita Krylov take him down as well. And I do feel like when he gets taken down, he can be held down too. So that's something that Anthony Smith is going to need to take advantage of at a certain point in this fight. He's going to have to shoot in a takedown. If he could take the back and get in a dominant position, he could end up getting that finish and ruining a lot of people's nights. But that's one thing that I think Ankalaev is a little bit suspect with. When you see usually a Dagestan Russian type of fighter, you wouldn't really expect him to have a takedown defense deficiency. But I do think that that's there a little bit with Ankalaev. His offensive wrestling is good, and when he gets on top, he used to really let go with heavy ground and pound and be real aggressive. But I think since the Paul Craig fight, he's kind of realized, or not realized, but just kind of got a little bit more weary of doing that because he got submitted in that way. And I think that now he's just more worried about controlling the position and being really safe. So he's not necessarily as dangerous when he gets on top anymore. But he does have the good offensive wrestling. I just think his defensive wrestling is a little bit suspect. And on the feet, he's primarily a boxer, man. I mean, he does have pretty good high kicks, and he'll throw some, kicks to all parts of the body pretty effectively, but primarily he works the hands. And, he's a little bit not slow-footed. He's definitely, fast for a light heavyweight, but he wants to get in that boxing range, and guys that can stick and move, kick, touch him and, keep their feet moving, not stay static, and, get ahead on the points and on the volume against Ankalaev as well. We saw Nikita Krylov be a little bit successful with that. We even saw Paul Craig be successful with that. And Ankalaev, he really mainly likes to look for that 3-2 combination, man. The left hook, he tries to move everyone into range for his left hook, land that left hook. Off that left hook, he'll land the 3-2, and he has really, really nice combinations on the inside. Super sharp, super fast hands. He'll go to the body, go to the head. He'll mix in head kicks at the end of his combinations, and if you stay in the pocket with him, he'll beat you to bits, man. I mean, the guy's got excellent boxing, but like I said, if you could stick and moves down the outside, maybe mix in some takedowns, you could definitely, give Ankalaev a scare. And we've seen Ankalaev get dropped. We've seen him get hurt. His last fight, he got knocked down by Thiago Santos. And, we also saw him get dropped by Daucha Lungi and Bula. So sometimes when guys blitz him, and they're explosive blitz attack guys, they can catch him and drop him or hurt him. And Anthony Smith, I mean, we've seen how he fights, and I feel like he's gotten a lot better in terms of his offense on the feet. He used to, I believe, rely a lot on kind of being a pretender. I'm not saying that in a bad way, but he's like a real awkward fighter, right? Where like he'll kind of go to the cage and look like he's like wearing down a real hurt, and then he's gonna explode in with a big shot and try to catch you. And real dangerous in close quarters. He's explosive. He has nice elbows on the inside, good hook counters. his last fight, I don't know if Ryan Spanish has no chin or maybe Anthony Smith's power's moving up, but he was hurting him with every punch he landed and looked, super, super heavy with the striking in that one. And, his boxing has definitely improved, his counters, and I feel like he's getting a little bit more willing to exchange in the pocket. And in this fight, I mean, the game plan for him is going to be pretty simple. He's going to be wanting to use a lot of footwork, movement on the outside, lateral movement on the left to the right, and throw a lot of kicks, front kicks, maybe try to throw knees. When Ankalaev closes the distance, try to counter with heavy shots like elbows, with big power punches, make the fight dirty, make it ugly. You can't have a technical fight with him either. Even though you're going to be moving on the outside, you have to, stand your ground sometimes and make it ugly and get Ankalaev a little bit out of like that rhythm and that kind of flow state that he likes to fight in. And then if Anthony Smith can get it into that second, third round and get the takedown, then hey, I mean, he's cooking there. Then maybe he can get that submission win. But the one thing about Anthony Smith is he does allow himself to get backed up. I think the Ankalaev is going to be working those leg kicks as well. I think both guys are going to be trying to work leg kicks, so it's going to be interesting to see who wins that leg kick battle. But I also believe, ultimately that Anthony Smith, if he was a little bit better of a wrestler, maybe I would even bet on him at this stage or pick him at this stage. But I feel like his wrestling isn't good enough, and I think that he's going to really struggle. Even if he attempt some takedowns, I think Ankalaev is going to be able to defend him, even though I still feel like Ankalaev's takedown defense is a little bit suspect. And I think on the feet with his pressure and his boxing, he's going to be able to land the better shots. And I think for Anthony Smith to win, he's going to have to knock him out or submit him. And Ankalaev, I think is just a little bit too technical. I mean, he's a really big guy. He doesn't get tired. He's going to pressure forward and work his basic 3-2s, be real, precise in what he wants to do, have good fight IQ, and he's going to do what he has to do to win. He's a point fighter. He finds that finish in the pocket with the nasty combination. He will do that, but I think more than likely if Ankalaev wins, it's going to be by decision, and I think if Anthony Smith wins, it's going to have to be inside the distance, but I am going to end up going with Ankalaev by decision, but ultimately I just feel like that line is way off. I think Anthony Smith is the value side and definitely has value if you want to bet him, but I'm going to go with Ankalaev to win this fight via decision. And this next fight's another fight that I'm really looking forward to. It's Alexandre Pantoja taking on Alex Perez in the UFC flyweight division. Two guys that are, in the top 5. Alexandre Pantoja is no doubt, the guy's one of the greatest 125-pound fighters in MMA history. He's been inside the top 10 of the weight class for over a decade at this point. He went pro in 2007, 15 years ago. He's definitely one of the most experienced flyweights remaining in the sport and still thriving. And Pantoja's been in the cage with some of the best flyweights of all time. He fought Jussier Formiga. He's fought Damasio Page, Brandon Moreno. He's fought Kai Kara France, Wilson Hayes, Stevenson Figueiredo, Dustin Ortiz, Matt Schnell, Askar Askarov, Manel Cape, Brandon Royval. He has wins over both the guys that are fighting for the interim title in Moreno and Kara France, and he beat Moreno twice. The only thing that Pantoja really has left to do, man, is get that UFC belt. That's going to be the capstone of his career. If he beats Perez, I think his title shot really can't be denied unless Figueiredo wants to drop back down to 125, which I honestly don't think he's going to do. And Pantoja's a great fighter. On the feet, he's still wild and mostly a brawler, but he's improved. He's gotten a lot sharper with his jab, and when he could pressure, work up the jab, set up the big right hand, that's when he's at his best. He'll go to the body, go to the head. He has, good power in the pocket, and his chin is legendary. He'll sit and brawl with the best of them. He's never been finished in 29 fights. He was able to take the power of Stevenson Figueiredo and turn him into a wrestler. But he does tend to get sloppy and start to load up, look for the KO. That does make him dangerous, but it also makes him hittable and not technically sound. He isn't a big kicker, but he has decent leg kicks, body kicks, and definitely better off the front foot. He's not as good when he can, or when he's getting pressured. And defensively, he's just not the best. He can walk into punches. He's hittable in exchanges, and he has an amazing chin. Like I said, he's never been finished by strikes, but probably will happen before he retires. And Pantoja is an amazing jiu-jitsu player. He's one of the best scramblers and back takers in the entire flyweight division. His wrestling has improved. He showed it off offensively against Brandon Royval in his last fight. Took him down a few times, got the submission, but Brandon Royval is a fighter who's notoriously easy to take down, gives his back, so For in terms of the grappling matchup wise, it was a lot better matchup than versus Perez. Pantoja's takedown defense has been a liability for him. He's gotten better, but he still can be taken down. And off of his back, early in fights, he's super dangerous. He'll throw up a ton of submissions. He can create scrambles. But as the fight goes on, if you can defend that early barrage, he does tend to get tired. He's been in a lot of wars. He's had a long career. And that's when fighters could start to take advantage of the sloppy striking on the feet, take him down, hold him down more effectively. And cardio-wise, like I said, he just slows down, especially in wrestling heavy fights. Most of his submission wins are rear naked chokes. He doesn't really have a lot of submissions from his full guard. He doesn't have a lot of guillotine wins or anything. So I feel like he did get close on a guillotine against Askar Askarov and was attacking with a lot of submissions early. But notoriously, he hasn't been able to finish a lot of those. He wasn't able to submit Askarov and ended up getting tired and losing that fight. And, you know, he struggled against that grappling heavy wrestler style. But Alex Perez, he's making his return for the first time since losing his UFC title bid against Stevenson Figueiredo at UFC 255. He had a lot of fights booked that never came to fruition, so I'm sure he's been ready to go and training and super amped for this one. Even though it's a short notice fight, I believe they've only had like 6 weeks to get ready for this one. Perez has been training. You know, he was going to fight Askar Askarov July 16th, which was, you know, about 2 weeks ago. But he's had 6 weeks to get used to this new date and opponent. So, you know, he had that. I don't exactly remember when they set up the Askarov fight, but he had some time before that obviously, and then he got set up with Pantoja. So he's had an extended camp. Pantoja's only had 6 weeks, so Perez has been training a little bit more, and you should have, you know, a little bit of advantage in the cardio either way. And Perez is a beast, man. I mean, the guy's a very good pressure boxing style. He has brutal leg kicks. He has elite wrestling. He's really big for flyweight. And he has really good defense. He has a tight guard. He kind of is very crouched, so his body's hard to hit as well. And he doesn't really get out of position too much. He does a really good job staying, you know, balanced. And he has power in his hands. He'll throw a lot of 3-2s, 2-3s. He doesn't really have the fastest hands, but he's good at walking opponents down, cutting them off, landing his shots. He is active with his calf kicks. He's actually finished the fight with calf kicks before the UFC. And he throws a lot of volume, and he has the cardio to keep the pressure up for 3 rounds. He's heavy-handed. His loss to Joseph Benavidez is his only loss finished via strikes, and he normally doesn't get hit very much. Me, personally, I feel like that Benavidez fight should be a no contest as well because Perez was clearly dropped with a headbutt, which led to the finish. So if you take that loss off his record, Perez's only loss in the UFC is to Stevenson Figueiredo, and that's also his only loss since August of 2016. So Perez has been on a roll recently. Even though he's coming off 1 loss and he hasn't fought in quite a while, he has been able to run through almost every other opponent that he's been in there with. And he has some of the best wrestling in the weight class. His pressure boxing style helps him set up his takedowns. He has super fast level changes, good singles, good doubles. When he gets on top, he has good ground and pound. He has a solid submission game, good front chokes, good arm triangles. His takedown defense is really good. He's never been taken down in the UFC. The one issue is Perez on the mat is he has been submitted a few times. He got submitted 4 times in his career. 3 of them were pre-2016, so I don't really, you know, put too much stock into those. But the other one was in his last fight where he got caught in a guillotine in the first round against Stevenson Figueiredo. Pantoja is a slick submission artist, so Perez needs to make sure his submission defense is as tight as possible for this one. But like I was saying earlier, a majority of Pantoja's submissions are rear naked chokes, so that is a positive Perez in terms of Pantoja not really historically catching a lot of guillotines or submissions from guard. So, you know, I feel like Perez has a clear path to victory. Even if you go back in Pantoja's career, he has a lot of losses to grapplers, man. He lost to Jussier Formiga in 2010, came and found the Ultimate Fighter. He got grinded out by a wrestler in Hirimoso Ogikubu and lost that fight by decision. He lost in the UFC to Askar Askarov, to Dustin Ortiz. Stevenson Figueiredo was able to use takedowns to seal their fight with Pantoja. If Perez can avoid submission and grind it out on top, he should be victorious. And I think as long as Perez comes back looking the same or hopefully better, he should get the win here if he avoids submission in the first round. I think if Pantoja wins, it's going to be a sub early in the first or maybe in the second. But I see this fight going towards Perez the further it goes. On the feet, I think Perez is the guy that's going to be going forward. I think Pantoja is going to be a little bit weird, the takedown. And I see Perez as a fighter with better defense and better boxing. He's bigger. I think his pressure is going to wear on Pantoja along with the wrestling. I think Perez can get takedowns. I think he can maul against the fence. He may have his back taken at one point or get in a sticky submission position, but as long as he can ride it out, stay safe, I think his gas tank in wrestling is going to be what sees him through. Perez has been submitted 4 times. Definitely scares me, but he's only been submitted once since 2016, and that submission came against Deiveson Figueiredo. We all know how deadly Figgy's guillotine is as well. Even though Pantoja is a great jiu-jitsu fighter, I don't think he has the guard or the guillotine that Figueiredo does. So I'm going to pick Perez to win this fight via decision in a slight upset. And I think he's going to come back and re-announce himself as a player in the weight class. And it's unfortunate because Pantoja's getting a little bit older. And I feel like Pantoja in another world could have been the UFC champion already by this point. But, you know, the cookie just didn't crumble that way for him. And I think Alex Perez is going to come in here and get the win over him. And this next fight, man, I mean, I don't know. I see a lot of people real confident in Sergei Pavlovich. And it's the same thing. I mean, I know you can't really take credit for the fight last week of Curtis Blades and Tom Aspinall. But I think a lot of people, they don't take into account how important, man, experience is in the heavyweight division. It's the most important thing. It's at that weight, you know, it's so much more important than in other weight classes. And I feel like that's definitely overlooked. And Derrick Lewis, I mean, he's a guy that's been in there with all the best fighters in the world. Sergei Pavlovich, even though he's looking really good, he's gotten 3 straight brutal knockouts. He has really good boxing. This is gonna be a different test, man. You're not gonna go in there with Derrick Lewis and be 100% confident and be throwing, you know, your combinations pressuring forward like you ain't got nothing coming back at you, man. I mean, it's gonna be a totally different thing than fighting Shamil Abdurakhimov. You know, Derrick Lewis, the guy is super athletic. I mean, even though he's not like a prototypical, you know, guy you'll see like saying he's a great athlete, but he moves super well, man. I mean, the guy has good movement on the feet and he's explosive. He explodes in with these crazy combos. And I don't have a lot of technical things to say about this. And I think Pavlovich is the better technical striker and he has really long arms. I don't know if he has the longest reach at heavyweight, but 84 inches is, you know, a really crazy reach. I don't know exactly what Ngannou's is, but definitely up there. He's southpaw, so that brings like a tricky element to him. And he's super fast and he closes the distance. He has good feints. He has good head movement and does a good job. He works that lead hook. He works the rear hand. That last fight he landed that nasty uppercut. And he puts good combinations together. He could back to the fence and throw real nice hand combos. And he's more of a boxer, though. I mean, he's going to be there for Derrick Lewis to touch. And I don't know about his chin. I don't know about, much about this guy in terms of how he's going to face adversity. I saw this fight with Alistair Overeem where he got taken down one time, he got finished, and then he fought 3 guys where he finished him in the first round, like Maurice Green. I mean, am I supposed to be that impressed that he ran through Maurice Green in the first round? I mean, is it really like super impressive that he knocked out Marcelo Golm or he knocked out Shamil Abdurakhimov after he got knocked out twice by Chris Daukaus in the same fight a couple months earlier? I mean, I feel like to put Pavlovich as the favorite, I just don't really understand that. Honestly, I feel like even though he's a lot more technical than Derrick Lewis, that really doesn't matter, man, at this division. And Derrick Lewis has proven that over and over and over again. And I don't know. I don't really have a real technical breakdown for you in this one. But I just feel like Derrick Lewis is going to get backed up. He's going to be getting beat up. And then he's going to close this with a big explosive shot and get the knockout. I know Tai Tuivasa, got him in his last fight. But I'm not ready to say Derrick Lewis is done in the division. And I think he's going to be able to take out a young, inexperienced guy like he took out Chris Daukaus. And, so I'm going to go with Derrick Lewis in this one. And in the co-main event, we got a rematch. We got Brandon Moreno taking on Kai Kara-France for the interim flyweight title. And I believe this is going to end up being the undisputed title. I mean, I can't say that with any certainty, but I just don't really envision Deiveson Figueiredo dropping back down to 25s. A lot of people feel like Moreno should have won that last fight. I don't agree with that. I feel like Figueiredo did win. So a lot of people feel like Moreno is the undisputed champ regardless. And it's going to be an interesting fight. I mean, Moreno's the guy with a lot more experience in this spot. He's been in 4 consecutive UFC title fights, or I think this is going to be his 4th. He had 3 in a row. He had the draw, he had the win, and then he had the loss. So he's experienced everything you can experience in a UFC title fight as well. One thing that I don't really like that much is he did switch his whole training camp to the U.S. to Glory MMA. And I don't really know why he did that. I feel like Entrim Gym, they were prepping him really well and he was doing great over there. I don't know if he just kind of needed something new, but hopefully I don't think it's going to really change his style or what he's going to go in there and try to do. I feel like it's going to be similar. And yeah, but I just don't really know why he decided to make that move there. But he's coming off that loss to Deiveson Figueiredo, close title fight loss. Maybe he just felt like he needed something fresh. But Kai France, he's coming in with the momentum. He has 3 wins in a row, coming in off that upset victory over Askar Askarov. And before that, he had the knockout win over Cody Garbrandt. So he's riding a wave of momentum, like I just said. And he just saw his training partner, Alex Volkanovski, defend his belt. He saw Israel Adesanya defend his belt a little bit earlier in the year. So he's been, witnessing greatness perform and do their thing. And he wants to join those champs, with a title of his own. And that'd be a pretty impressive feat to have 3 champions from the same gym out of New Zealand, man, or Australia. So, I mean, if they could pull that off, that would be really, really impressive. But both these guys already fought. They matched up once, and Brandon Moreno was the one that came in with the victory that time. And when you look at the way that they fight again, I mean, I have been impressed with Kai France. His last fight against Askar Askarov, his takedown defense was amazing, man. He showed amazing get-ups and definitely has improved his grappling. You saw against Rogerio Bontorin as well, even though he got put in a dangerous position in the back mount early in the fight, was able to eventually get back up to his feet, get the knockout. So his grappling has really improved. His takedown defense, his submission defense. So he's definitely worked on that aspect of his game. But he's still the same on the feet. He's a guy that likes to, use a lot of really good footwork and then pull guys into those straight punches. He's super speedy and he has big power for the weight. And Brandon Moreno's more the guy that's going to keep that steady pressure. And I feel like Kai France struggles with long guys with the long reach that could pressure him, stay in his face, and eat his power shots. Like we saw the durable guy in Holly and Paiva that could walk you down, counter you, and has long arms and, good chin. Same thing with Moreno. They both gave him a lot of trouble. They were able to kind of break him down towards the end of the fight. France's style is a lot of movement, and he throws heavy, so he's exploding in, he's exploding out, he's laterally moving, and that takes a lot of energy, man. This is going to be his first 5-round fight as well, and I do think if that fight with Moreno happened, or if that fight with Moreno was 5 rounds that they previously had, Moreno probably would have been able to get the finish in the 4th or the 5th. France seemed like he was kind of breaking down a little bit. So one thing that Moreno was doing really effectively in that first fight was countering with the left hook. And I still don't see why he couldn't do that in this fight. I know France is maybe going to be trying to come up with some different avenues to get inside to avoid that. But I just feel like Moreno's proven that he could take those punches. And unless his fight against Deiveson Figueiredo, where he did get dropped quite a few times, really took away his chin, I don't see France's power being a deterrent for Moreno. I think that Moreno is going to be able to take those shots and continue the pressure. He's going to show him that he's a Terminator again, like he did in the first fight, flexing on him, kind of showed him, you can't hurt me type of thing. And that did seem like it got in Kai France's head. And I just feel as if Moreno has the superior cardio, the superior grappling by a large margin. And I feel like he also has the better boxing. And I feel like if he can get Kai France in more exchanges, he could start to, land heavy, start to get the better of it. I think he can start to, when France starts to slow down, counter him with that left hook once again. And for France, man, I feel like he's going to have to be in the best shape of his life where he can keep that movement and the speed going for 5 rounds, which is going to be extremely difficult if he can't get that knockout early, which I think is very unlikely. And ultimately, I just feel as if the long reach, the pressure, the counter boxing, forcing France in more exchanges is going to be, the demise of Kai France. I think that Brandon Moreno is going to do the same thing. I think he's going to be able to get in his face, force him backwards, get him tired. And I think in this one with 2 extra rounds, he's going to be able to get him out of there. So I'm actually going to go with Brandon Moreno by 4th round submission. I would say, maybe we'll try to mix in some takedowns and work that avenue if I didn't watch France's last fight. But man, his takedown defense looks super on point against Askarov. But I think if Moreno can get it to the ground, he has a big chance to get the submission. So whether that happens early or that happens late in the fight, I think if he can get it down to the ground and get the back, I think it could definitely be, night for Kai Kara France. And Kai Kara France, I just don't think is going to be able to come in there and have that cardio to deal with the pressure guy that could take his power, continue to walk him down, counter him, get him uncomfortable, and make it a dogfight. And I think that Mexican style that Brandon Moreno brings is going to get him the win here, get him another title victory, get him another belt with the UFC, interim or not. I mean, you'll be a 2-time champ, and that'll be pretty awesome for Mexico, man. So Brandon Moreno, I think, is going to go in there, and I'll say he gets a 4th-round rear naked choke victory. And then finally here, we got the main event. We got the rematch, Julianna Peña versus Amanda Nunes. And, man, I mean, all you guys told me I was crazy on the first one, right? Picking Julianna Peña. And, yeah, I mean, I thought she went in there and did exactly what I thought she was going to do, and it was an awesome fight. And I see a lot of people, and I see Amanda Nunes included, making a lot of excuses, man. She had an injury now. COVID was still bothering her through the full fight camp, and, that's why she looked off in the fight. But I don't agree. I don't think she looked off in the fight, honestly. I really don't. I mean, I think people are really giving her a lot of excuses, man. I mean, go back and watch the fight. The first round, she won 10-8 in the round, arguably. I mean, Peña maybe got it back a little bit with the submission attempt late in the round, but she got dropped with the leg kick. She got dropped with the punch. She got controlled on the mat for a long period of time, Peña. And Nunes was dominating the fight. Nunes was looking good. And the thing that happened is what I said was going to happen, man. I mean, look at Nunes after the first round. She's not tired. She's smiling, man, after the round. Right before the round's going to start, she's smiling from ear to ear. Looks like she's in great shape, having the time of her life. She went downhill when the fight got tough, man, because she didn't expect that to happen. She didn't expect Peña to get in her face, start exchanging with her, taking the shots, and going to war. And when that started to happen and the bully started to get bullied, she took her ball and went home. And that's exactly what happened. I think that a lot of people are, looking too much into it, like trying to think of all these excuses of why it happened. But just look with your own eyes, man. I mean, that's what happened. I mean, even in that second round, Nunes was throwing heavy bombs too, and she's fighting exactly how she always does. Wild, throwing, crazy shots, looking for the knockout, heavy hooks, big overhands, sloppy, and she didn't have the power to get Peña out of there, get Peña out of her face, and Peña was just being technical. She was throwing the jab. She was throwing, the straight punches down the middle. She was getting from A to B faster. She was landing cleaner. And she started touching Nunes up, and you saw Nunes start to break down. And then Peña only needed one takedown, and Nunes wanted to get out of there, and she tapped with, without the hooks in. And ultimately, I mean, I think that Nunes should really, in this fight, try to flip the script, man. And I don't know if she has the cardio to do it, because Peña's not going to be just sitting on her back and allow Nunes to just hold her down like these other girls where she won with this game plan. Like, for instance, when she fought Felicia Spencer, right? She had a lot of the fight on the feet, but she also had periods of time where she held her down and won that way. Or when she fought Germaine de Randamie, which is a much better example, she held her down the second fight for almost the entire fight. She did almost get submitted at one point with an armbar against de Randamie as well, but de Randamie did not have the get up, and she did not have, the active hips and just moving up so much on the ground like Peña's going to do. She was just kind of sitting there and let Nunes just control her and burn the clock. And when you're fighting at that slow pace, then yeah, Nunes can control on top and, win with the wrestling for 5 rounds. But if Peña's moving, she's making it difficult to control her. She's attacking submissions. Is Nunes going to be able to keep that same, ability through 5 rounds to get the takedown of control on top? I don't know. I think that what Nunes should do in this fight, though, honestly, is look for submissions, man, because I think it's going to be tough to knock out Julianna Peña. I mean, we just saw in her last fight, the girl is super durable. She's in there and she's taking those shots, man. And she's not afraid to take those shots. That's one of the big things. I mean, a lot of the time when you're kind of like shying away from the power, that's when you're going to get knocked out because you won't see the shots coming. When you're going head on against it, force meets force. I mean, you're going to be able to outlast it longer, and you're going to be able to do your thing. I mean, especially if you're durable like Peña. And I don't really see Amanda Nunes. I mean, obviously, the girl has crazy power. She could catch her and put her to sleep, of course. But I don't think that's a high likelihood outcome. I think Peña is going to be super hard to get out of there like that, and you're going to have to put her out cold. And I just don't think that's going to be a high likelihood thing of happening. I think that Amanda Nunes really should come in here and look to get the back, get a rear naked choke, get on the neck, get a guillotine, get a submission win. I think that would be her best chance to win. We've seen Pena submitted a couple times. And if Nunes can get that submission, I think that's going to be her path to victory. But I also think, if she comes in great shape, maybe she could, work those long straight punches and the calf kicks for 5 rounds. But that's a long time to do that. I mean, I think that if she could stay real technical within herself, work the calf kicks, and really break down Julianna before she starts to go wild with the hands, then okay, I mean, maybe that could be a path to victory. But I don't think that Amanda Nunes is that type of fighter. I think she's going to go in there and she's going to, go to war again. It's going to be a guerra, and she's going to lose this fight, man. I think that Julianna Peña, is going to be the one that goes out there, and it's kind of going to be a similar fight to the last one. I think Nunes is going to start real hot. She's going to start doing her thing, doing real well. And I think Peña's going to weather the storm. She's going to start getting in her face. And when the tide starts to turn, I think it's going to flip on its axis like it did in the last fight, man. I think that Peña's going to start to land clean. And I think if Peña gets Nunes to the ground when Nunes is tired, we've seen Nunes break on multiple occasions, and we saw her break against Peña, and we've never seen Peña break, and I don't think we ever will. So I think that's just the difference in the fight. I think one girl has more will than the other. She has a bigger dog, and that's Julianna Peña, and I think she's extremely durable. She has the cardio advantage, and man, I mean, one thing I am a little bit worried about is she has been all over. She's been doing a lot of media and things like that, and she's really loved that champ life. But Julianna Peña is not the type of girl I feel like that's going to come in unprepared. I think she's going to come in top of her capability. She's going to come in ready to go. And matchup-wise, we've just seen, like, you guys weren't believing me last time, but man, I mean, we saw Sarah DeLulia beat Amanda Nunes. We saw Alexis Davis beat Amanda Nunes. We saw Kat Zingano beat Amanda Nunes. She struggles against these girls, man. She beat some of them. She beat Sarah McMahon. She beat Miesha Tate. It's not like she can't beat the style, but I think Julianna Peña is going to do it to her again, man. I think she's going to win. I'm going to say Julianna Peña wins by second or third round submission win again. I just feel like Nunes is not going to be able to keep the pace. I think that she's going to eventually start to get wild. I don't think she's going to be able to be technical over 5 rounds. And I think Julianna Peña is going to break her down and get the finish. So give me Julianna Peña once again and still. And I don't know what that's going to, entail for Amanda Nunes. I don't know if Nunes is going to retire after this fight. I think it's, a likely possibility. The other thing I don't really like about Nunes coming in this one is a lot of changes, man. I mean, she's went and created her own gym where they had to build the whole gym up from scratch. And I don't know what training partner she's had in there. I mean, Nina Anstroff and who else? I don't know which coaches she brought over from American Top Team or any of that. I mean, it's completely new. And she coached the Ultimate Fighter, so obviously she had other priorities there as well. So she wasn't 100% focusing on setting up her whole camp that she needed to do for a title fight. And Julianna Peña kept it all the same, and she's going to be the more confident girl going in there. Regardless if Amanda Nunes is making all these excuses in her head for why she lost, she knows she went in there and she quit, and she couldn't get her out of there. And that has to play a factor in the fight. And I think a lot of people, man, you got to look like when there's like a real like champion, right? Like a girl that's super dominant and the challenger is so confident like Julianna Peña was, that's a big indicator, man. I mean, you have to take that into account, and you have to see that and kind of put that into your reason of why you think someone's going to win or why they're going to lose, because confidence is a huge part of the game, man. And I think that Julianna Peña has the big edge in that one as well, especially coming off that first fight. And I think Peña's going to do it to her again, man. I really do. I mean, most of the time when someone wins the first fight, they have an immediate rematch for the title. The same person wins again, regardless if they were a huge favorite in the first one, like Joanna Jędrzejczyk, like Anderson Silva. Usually the same thing happens again, man. I mean, we have seen some changes, obviously, where, for instance, like DC versus Stipe or something, but I don't think that Nunes is going to get her belt back, man. I think that she had her time in the sun. She was the greatest of all time. She still is. But most girls, most of the time you don't have 2 primes, man. And I think that the prime of Amanda Nunes might be winding down. I mean, I think that this might be her last fight potentially. So, we all love greatness. We love seeing Amanda Nunes and people like that fight. So, yeah, if this is her last fight, then that's what it's going to be. But if she wins, obviously, I think, then maybe she'll continue to fight for a while. But yeah, I just think Julianna Peña is going to, go in there and do the business again, man. I'm pretty confident once again. And I'm going to go with Julianna Peña. But there you have it, guys. That's a full card breakdown for UFC 277. Hopefully you enjoyed it. Hopefully you learned something. Like I was saying at the beginning of the video, if you want to get my full card betting package for this card for Dana White Contender Series next week, for all the other fight cards outside of the UFC, then make sure to check out patreon.com/MMA Prediction Guru. We've been killing it this year. And let's try to get this video 150 likes. I'd really appreciate it. Let's try to run up the likes. It helps the algorithm. And put a comment down below what you think of my predictions. Am I way off? Am I on point with you? Who you're betting on? I'm pretty curious. And yeah, man, let's have some conversation down below in the comments. Really love all you guys in the community and really appreciate you guys. So I'll be back next week with some more fight breakdowns. And until then, catch you guys later.